We slid in just in time.
You want a water?
Yes, thank you. Well, hello, everyone. This is the October 11th, 2022 Duluth CSD Engineering Committee meeting. I'm Chairman Chuck Bowman, and I'm now calling the meeting to order. First item, Director Rawson.
Here.
And Bowman is here, so we're through that. Do we have anybody from the public who would like to make a comment today?
No, not this afternoon.
Okay. Next item is approval of the September the 13th of agenda item B is the approval of the mitigation payments for the Sandia Creek and Villa Vaquero repair projects. Jim, is that within the scope of the committee to approve, or is that an item that needs to move to the full board?
It begins at the committee level, so we'll give you an update on what this is about. You saw this a month ago.
Yes, yes, we did.
No, it's not a typo. What happened in the process of doing the mitigation for Buena Vista, we were ahead of the game.
Yes.
Okay, and we were concerned that we needed to get that paid so that it didn't hold up the construction
Right.
project. Well, in the course of doing all the paperwork, it was brought to our attention that we hadn't paid the mitigation on Sandia Creek. How that happened, nobody knows, but we got the permit, we got it constructed, which is what I was trying to avoid on Buena Vista.
Right,
So
right.
I just got this phone call, hey, how come you haven't paid up? And actually, it was 5 minutes in the conversation with me telling the person, which was our environmental consultant for Sandia Creek, well, we just did that. We didn't know we were talking about a different project. So anyway, Ron took care of it, and you want to explain where we are?
Am I right that it was the same number of acres as the Buena Vista?
No, I think it was a little more. This
Was
was
it?
more for one of it. More for it's more for San Diego Creek and Villa Vaquero than it was.
My memory wasn't serving me
So a
well.
little bit more, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it's basically I think Jessica included it right here in the packet. Basically, it's the same exact agreement, just with a different number and different
Right.
acreage, basically. So I think it came out to a total of around 43,000, basically.
Right.
That needs to be paid. Then that's the same thing as last time, just the mitigation. You have to pay the regional water boards, basically mitigation banks. And it's all basically the same exact thing, just for a different project. With but of course, we gotta remember this is 2 projects, so that's why this one
Yes.
it's a little bit more, a little more of an impact. So that's where the number is. And I think we're purchasing a whole 0.09 acres of mitigation there. So
Wasn't the last one 23,000?
it was either there or 30. I forget.
No, it was 23.
It was 23. Okay, yes.
Six or 23.
Yeah.
And so this is just about double.
Yeah, for some reason I had remembered the number of acres as 0.09 on the other, so that was my error there.
So the recommendation then would be, if there's no questions or anything further, we'll just take this item and put it on the board agenda
Right.
and indicate that.
So the committee would make the recommendation to put it to, send it to the full board. And Dr. Rawson?
Approved. Yes.
I approve, and so we'll do that, we'll make that recommendation. I'll put it in the minutes for the report for the.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Stein, we return to Buena Vista.
My favorite topic. No, I think you're gonna have some, yes, so it's about time, it's the first time I'm actually happy to talk about Buena Vista, so. So basically, I think we saw the email, we did receive the environmental permit, after a long fought battle, I guess, it's finally paid off, so we have all 3 permits now. The last step, we got the mitigation, we approved the check to go out for that one, in last month, so. Now we just have to, the only next step is 5 days before construction, we just have to send notice to the agencies that we're going to begin on construction. So with this great news, I called the contractor up and let him know basically that I did this right when it came in. I think it came in last Wednesday or something, last Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
So we got everything cut away. There was no special requirements in it. It's basically all the general conditions. So we don't have to pay for an extra monitor. There was no tribal monitor that needs to be out there, which is very good for us. There's also no extra mitigation is going to be required. Sometimes that requires changes to the plans if need be, but luckily everything was in the, you just got to stay with those plans and we're good to go. So, so basically I talked to the contractor and one of his concerns originally was the dirt site was going to still be available. I did just get off the phone with him this morning. He's able to secure the same dirt site so that all of that dirt was available because I know you've seen one of this, so there's a lot of dirt that still needs to be in to fill that hole. So.
Yeah.
So they did find that, they secured everything, and now we're just, right now they're actually coordinating with Jessica, trying to get the final, contract documents signed and get their insurance and bonds in place, which is the next step. Now that we have the date, they can go off, and then once we issue that NTP, it looks like they're gonna be able to go within the next, 2 to 3 weeks. The next step is gonna be to get a pre-con together and get all the utility companies in that pre-construction meeting, basically, to come together, and we just, let them know the status of the project and how we're gonna move forward, who the chain of command is and the inspection team and everything.
It's been there long enough that it now exists on Google Earth. Had to look at it today. That's a big hole.
It is, yes. I had to look that back up, I didn't see that. But no, that's, so sooner or later, Google Maps is gonna be out of date because it's gonna be all filled in here shortly.
Right.
And then, of course, they know, we hopefully, fingers crossed, last year, the big rain was in December. Let's hope we don't get any big rains until then, but the contractor is fairly confident that he can have at least the channel functional within about 2 to 3 weeks of them going in. So that puts them around Thanksgiving, there should be a functional, at least channel. And that should let us beat the rain, but you never know what's gonna happen with rain. But I think we're well set up and, I think we're doing the right decision to go ahead with this, so.
It's good news, good job.
Something just popped in my brain, water district.
Yes.
Now, I know we don't have a line that's going across like at Sandia Creek or Sandia Creek. But there was some complaint by the neighbors that they reoriented the water.
Correct.
So you might have somebody or you call them.
At that constant
And
coordination.
if they want to put pipes or something in, now's the time to do it.
Yes.
Instead of after. They say, oh, if you'd have told us, anyway, just make sure we're covered.
And I have been talking with, Jacob Wiley was the original guy, and then he moved me over to Casey Arndt. And they were supposed to, they actually wanted to reattach the line and make it, right now they cut it off, which, I don't know, just so everyone knows, when a water line, they're all pressure pipes basically. So you don't want them to dead end the way they are right now. So right now, they cut it at each end and reoriented, which right now it's safe, but it's not what you want for a permanent condition. Right now it's the temporary. So they do want to reconnect that. So I have had a coordination with Rancho Water just to try and get them to say, hey, we're about to fill in the pipe. This is the time to build everything.
Great.
But they're not gonna go into full action until they see everything moving, which is unfortunate. But I have reached out to them, but I do want to give them another kind of nudge. And when I set up this pre-con, I'm going to reach out to all the utility agencies so that they can all come in and give the good thing is I did talk with our contractor. They have all the certifications that are required that they do want. If Rancho Water wants them to do that under the contract, that's something they can do on their own and kind of coordinate with them. So they are a certified contractor allowed to do that.
Okay, good.
Welding and water work. So
Are there any other utilities down through there? I know on our road, we have electrical and plumbing also under the road.
Right now, there's nothing we saw right there, but we're not showing anything that's been affected. And if there was, it's not there. I mean, it's an open hole, so that's not 100%.
Real slow.
Because, that whole
Not everything.
But again, if they're gonna put something new in, this would be.
this will be the time, correct, yes.
Do the internet companies need to know if we have something open so they can put their lines
Well,
in?
that's what when he has a pre-construction meeting, all the utilities are
Oh, good.
notified and they're supposed to be there. And so, but yeah, maybe add,
Frontier, is it, or?
yeah,
I believe it's
Yeah,
fine.
probably Frontier and that.
Frontier and Edison, just make sure they have the whole show. Jessica works with Edison all the time, so she's got a current contact.
Okay,
Maybe she could make that one and, and Frontier probably too.
yeah, and if I could, I think if I always forget with the, new committee members coming in, I know it's been a while now, but just so you know, every time we do a design, we have it's called a utility coordination process, and it starts with that 811 number, and we make a ticket on that, and that tells us every affected utility in the area. So as we're going through the design, we send out 30%, 60%, and final utility coordination notices to all the utility agencies. So that's what lets us know, and that's what gives them a chance to tell us what they want us to do. And
So they
we
already
can go
know
through.
about it.
So we have, yes, everything's been, any affected company was made aware of it, they had the final thing, and then now the next step is this pre-construction, let them know that we're having meetings on that. So that's just a little insight into the little things we do during the design that helps us keep coordinating with all the utilities.
Then maybe just so I can understand for future, just because I run into it periodically, there's like some areas where Frontiers run their cables and then some areas that there's not. And is it just up there, is it just because they're too far out? That they haven't been able to get their internet to them?
That might be the case, but maybe that's not their area of influence. It's something I'd have to really look at.
No, I just was-
It's all different, but some areas are served by different agencies.
But I
in some
think we're
cases,
all
but-
here.
And then.
Is Jessica here?
They're fine here.
Jessica,
Yes,
is there any other cable companies in Frontier here?
no.
It could have something to do with the customers haven't paid to get it to the property, maybe?
Sometimes they need to do broadband, or they'll say the Frontier will say, we can't bring it available to there or whatever, for whatever reason. So it's just something I've run into personally, so I was kind of curious, but I know it's Frontier's services area, but depending where you live, not everyone has it. So some people have broadband.
That's the difference between being in a district and being in a city,
Mhm.
because we don't award the franchises to Frontier and really to Edison.
Mhm.
Once we get this gas tax issue resolved, that's an area that we need to explore. Because if this were a city, there wouldn't be blank that area.
Yeah, that's,
Okay. But because they're operating under a Riverside County permit.
Yeah.
We get you see, the franchise is because they're using the public way to conduct a business. Whether it be Edison, even though they're a public utility, they're still a business, or the cable companies. So they ask the agency who owns the right of way
Mhm.
for a permit. And one of the conditions, like with the city to get the franchise is you've got to cover it all. So I couldn't answer that if this were a city.
no, no.
They have to provide coverage, all right? But what you're saying is the real life that they're picking and choosing. Okay.
I think so. When we lived on Cameron, we weren't able to have Frontier and we had broadband. When we moved back to El Viento Seco, Frontier was available and it was great. But it's just, and those aren't that far from each other, but it's really interesting how that works, so.
Someday we're gonna get to the bottom of that, because here, these roads were given by the county over to us, but they didn't give us the franchise. Well, they did, because it's one of those clauses in all of the franchises that it inures to the jurisdiction of, if it becomes a city or something like that. But it's all about money, because there's a franchise fee paid to the county. So the county gave us the roads, and says, you deal with those guys. But we're not giving you the money.
Right.
And so we don't have any regulatory.
No, no.
But anyway, it's coming up. A year from now, we're gonna be talking about this again. Because it's an issue, we need to.
We are what we are. It's nice to have Frontier.
Okay, that's all on, Buena Vista.
Correct, yes.
Well, you're on a roll. Let's have some good news on the rehabilitation.
Yeah, so the salary job, we're kind of in the same exact boat right now with, we awarded the contract, we have everything. So then now they just, need to get their insurance documents in and the bonds in place basically. So I did talk, actually I got on the phone with him, this morning. And he has his crews basically, set up to go. It looks like it's gonna be around the first, beginning of November is when they're planning to start, when they can actually get all the crews out there. They're still getting all their insurance documents in place and all the bonding and everything. So it's kind of it's gonna actually work out really well. We're gonna have both construction projects going on right there
That's
at the
great.
same time. So
It's
it's
really good.
yes, that does make it a little easier, especially
Yes.
yeah. So but we're gonna get that all knocked out, and then once they get that, of course they have construction submittals they need to get to me before they can get going. But it looks like around the first around the 1st of November they should be set up to go. He's getting all his subs. Just in line to get going, but that's kind of in line. I think they were originally saying the last week of October. Now it's like more like the first week of November. It's just trying to get over subs in place.
And likely completion date.
The likely completion date, I'd have to update that schedule that I sent last week. I believe it was 40 working days, but it looks like it'll go. I think the last one was around mid-December, so I just pushed back a week or so from that. It's looking like around Christmas time. We're hoping to get everything done before the new year, but I'll have to recalculate those working days, and I can have that for you between now and the board meeting, basically.
Yeah, because
It's still the same working days. It's pushed that original schedule I gave back.
It's nice to have it done for the first of the year. That's great. That's very nice.
and hopefully before any wet weather, give us better quality roads.
I agree, and then again, it's in to answer that, I guess, the concern of a lesser quality road being built. There's actually, they have to read the forecast basically, and they're not allowed, if the forecast has a certain percentage, or if they see rain, it's gonna be rain a certain day, they're not allowed to go out there, which that doesn't bode well for the length of time being out there, but it's necessary because you don't want them to pave and
Sure.
Yeah.
a downpour comes in, they have to redo it. They would have to redo it if something like that happened. So,
Right.
that's a big thing, especially with the rain. But we didn't run into any issues, last year. We did it basically around the same exact time, when we did the flurry though. And there's another rule where that if you see the temperature is, I believe, 50. It's 50 degrees, 50 degrees, it has to be 50 degrees and rising for them to continue the slurry operation. If it's at the end of the day and it's going down, they have to stop around that time, make sure it's at least 50 degrees. So, but there are specification languages that protect us from certain weather conditions. So they definitely need to be monitoring that. And within the contract is, if they have a rain day, it adds a day to the contract, basically. That's
Very good. Okay, well, thank you. That is good. Mr. Livering, any traffic reports? I saw that.
I have one. See if you guys are gonna get one.
Get one from your action. And,
You have one.
I think
You have the report. Okay. Here you go. Copy of the PowerPoint. I'm skim through the PowerPoint, which highlights the report for you. Okay, so as you know, we were asked to do a survey for you and selected, start with the 5 entering next to the streets. And this report today is just going to cover the first 2, Metro California and Camino Estribo. I'm sorry, India Creek. That slide's wrong. Okay, oh, never mind. I'll fix that. We're looking at accident information, roadside shoulders, pavement conditions, traffic signing, things like that, just whatever we can see and develop any recommendations for you. So these 2 streets are the first ones that we decided to go with. And if you take a peek at Rancho California Road there, you'll see that the striping and the guardrails and the berms and the pavement is all in very good condition. So they just did that, a few months ago. Next page, you've got, this is highlighting that they have guardrails along the embankments and warning signs, and they also have that roof center line, kind of stuff like that. So these are nice features that they've added over the years. We do know 2 fatals that have occurred in the last 4 years since I've been here. One is on the curb there itself, where the DUI, and that's where the picture is. And then the other one's the motorcycle that was at Mount Dora. So the county, as a result of our prompting, lowered the speed limit from 55 down to 45. on that section of roadway between Avenida, Oro, and the Temecula city limits. The county also installed an all-way stop at that intersection of Avenida, Oro, and Rancho, California, and they added even a flashing beacon to that stop sign. It's an oversized stop sign and a flashing beacon to move.
At the request of the district.
It
I
helped.
wouldn't be there without you guys.
So what we're kind of saying here is that, A, the roadway is completely within the county's jurisdiction, so it's really not ours to maintain or do anything so much as, but to make recommendations like we've been doing. And we don't really have any recommendations at this time to further enhance it because it seems like it's working well now. We've got everything pretty much tidied up and that, so.
One footnote, because I don't know if the committee members know this. Our boundaries run down the center line of the road.
I've heard that,
It's true.
I-
And
I-
how
I
I
think-
found out is there was an accident and there was a question by the attorneys, who do you sue? And they tried to sue us. And we thought that it was easy. It's all within the county jurisdiction. It's not that easy. And we had to jump through a lot more hoops
Yeah.
to not be named in this lawsuit because the county took jurisdiction through the transfer of the roads that we maintain. So they basically took Rancho Cal and kept it for maintenance. So if you read the meets and bounds description or whatever surveyors use, and if you know how to read that, those numbers indicate that our boundaries are, well, they show we're in the middle of the road. So it would be the westerly side. But they did not give us the same meets and bounds descriptions when they transferred the roads. So they kept those roads. But it's very confusing, like in a situation like this, you're asking a lawyer to sue the county and not sue the district because it's not our road. Yet if they bring in a surveyor, they say that half that road is in the district. Then we have to respond, yeah, but we don't have anything.
Seems like it'd be pretty unmanageable to try to maintain one side of a road.
Yeah, actually, some do out in the desert, Indio and La Quinta, right, Steve? They do one side, and the other, and it's pretty crazy. But anyway, will probably come up someday about, it would have been so much easier if they made the district boundaries before they had given thought to what road that they were gonna keep Rancho Cal. And so anyway, right.
Steve, I think Rancho California serves as access to areas farther west as well, up to Duluth Road, right? And that is part of our coverage area, our area up through to Duluth and I guess maybe just a little bit beyond in some places. Is that true?
It stops at Duluth.
Yeah, it's not, and then it has to lose also.
Yeah. Is there any consideration of issues for the part of California, Rancho California Road beyond Del Oro?
It's the same basic cross-section all the way down. The recent, I'll call it the overlook area that they were having parking issues with and all that kind of stuff like that has all been kind of rectified. I didn't go into a lot of all that because I thought it's kind of repeating all the same history, but the road was totally reconditioned in the same fashion all the way through. It's the same width all the way through, same speed all the way through and all that kind of stuff like that. So I just, I can certainly add that to the report.
I think it might be worth having it in the report just for completeness,
Okay.
because people who use Duluth Road are obviously concerned with that section.
And originally that was supposed to have gone to the ocean. And that's why if you take Google Earth and you go west of where it stops at Duluth, there's little segments of Rancho California Road,
Yeah.
even in Orange County.
Yeah.
And if you pull your earth back up a little bit, you'll see it's in direct line of sight So, but remember CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, didn't happen until 1974. There were plans for all kinds of, especially in San Diego County, these like super highways, kind of like Lambs Canyon, to go east-west. And then in 74, shut it all down. Because you couldn't get through all the CEQA
If
requirements.
you take Los Gatos up to Avocado Mesa to Villa Volcano, you'll intercept Rancho California there
California,
again,
yeah.
but it's just a little cul-de-sac is all that got built there. It doesn't go any further, you know, kind of.
And there's like 5 of those going
Yeah.
across,
Yeah.
like to.
Well, the train was down in Duluth and Fallbrook at one point, so that's,
right.
yeah, because we have that, I've sold property there where they had the original jail
Yeah.
years and years ago. So, you forget, but the train used to go through Fallbrook. So that's, yeah, it's interesting.
Okay, we'll add that to the report.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so the other street was Sandia Creek.
Right.
And of course, we've kind of gone over that pretty thoroughly over the last few months and so I'm just kind of skipping to the highlights here that, you know, obviously the gate went in back in July, and that's of course reduced the traffic significantly.
Yeah.
And then here's the numbers that kind of show that we've already kind of been through. The district, you know, put up warning signs to let people know that restriction, and our section has posted enforceable speed limit, and the roads are in good condition. You know, we just resurfaced it, we restriped it, we've done new RPMs. The shoulders are nice and smooth and level. By contrast, you look at the San Diego section, the private section that they did, it's in pretty, you know, poor shape by comparison. The edge of pavements are rattling, and there's no edge lines in those RPMs and, you know, that kind of stuff. Their shoulders are not smooth and that, so.
Mhm.
And then you see the line, the signs that they have basically warning any drivers of the risk of using this road kind of
Right.
like that. So just to kind of contrast the two, we're doing a real good job keeping ours looking good and in good shape, and don't have any further recommendations for our roads. San Diego segment, obviously not in good condition, so maybe down the line, something to do to urge them to make some minor improvements that maybe enhance it a little bit for, especially for nighttime travel. Probably wouldn't be a bad thing to do, you know. Next steps, we're going to be looking at Camino Strigo and Los Gatos.
Mhm.
And TJ and I have already gone out on both those streets and taken a look at some of the things that we might be able to possibly do with staff's help or help minimize some of the issues in that. And we'll have more, you know, complete discussion like this for you guys at your next meeting and stuff like that. What options might be, and we can kind of get into discussion of each of those.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
There you go.
All right, I think we're up to the field crew report.
I don't think you guys were able to get mine.
How long have you been our acting chief?
It's-
5 weeks.
Yeah, roughly.
He's doing a very good job.
So he was very helpful out with, you know, Wyatt were very helpful out with their traffic suggestions. I told him the next reclassification study, go for a traffic assistant or something, you know.
Oh, there you go, there you go.
They had several good suggestions. Well, what about the sight distance here? How about the turning radius? You know, they're like, wait, you guys are gonna talk like traffic engineers? All right.
Good deal.
He was trying to recruit us.
Yeah.
So, we actually finished with, the inspections and we actually moved on to, cleaning out the drains, the ones that were clogged anyways. So that way they could,
So we've got a complete inventory of all the drains and we've looked at all of them.
yeah, we have a list of which ones we were clogged, so that way after we inspected them, we can just go right on to
Right.
clogging, so. That way they can flow with little to no restrictions and then hopefully no blowouts happen.
And we approve.
Exactly.
Don't want another,
In fact, every day, TJ comes in and we spend maybe 10, 15 minutes and he's got photographs, which I could bring him up too through the GPS, but he just shows me on his phone before and after. And then if there's anything we need to discuss, for the next day, maybe some equipment he needs or something, or if that looks good enough. Now, of course, if you look at the before and after on the second page here, the after isn't perfect. It's not a brand new drain.
Yeah.
But you can see the difference. It will flow.
Yeah, it's kind of leading into a question I had after having gone through all of them. Are there any of them that you see out there that you think are likely to fail?
I would say probably not this time. I think we should be pretty good. I'm pretty confident with that, so.
Yeah, if you look like at this picture, the one on the right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 75% is open.
Mhm.
And this is the outbound side. So,
That's the worst side of it.
depending, what's that?
That would be the worst side I would just
Yeah,
expect.
and that's, of course, where it's depositing,
Yeah.
the debris. So, the other side isn't showing here, but basically what they're doing is clearing any debris,
Mhm.
tumbleweeds, anything on the inbound side of the pipe. And that what you're looking at, what we're cleaning is the outbound,
Mhm.
so that it doesn't hit the outbound, the water, and then damage, the pipe.
Right.
So, we know that the inbounds are all clean, and most of them are looking like this, or better. I mean, there's some that are, you can see the bottom of it. But there are some that really are gonna take replacement. How many is on that list that you, out of 7?
I think it was like 20.
Around 20 that we've known about for a long time. I mean, they just have to come out of the
What is the
ground.
total number?
Of a replacement?
Well, total number of drains that we
Oh,
service.
700 plus.
Around 7, but yeah.
Yeah. Are there any tools or materials that would give you help in getting that job done or doing it more quickly?
For unclogging. The best thing you could do, just as right now with what we have, we were doing it with a black bar to like break up, if it was like thicker dirt, break it up and use a shovel as well. And then, I mean, because you're not gonna be able to get like all the way in there.
Sure.
Like, so that's like the best thing you can do, just basically probably about a foot into the pipe, and that's probably like the best you can do.
Is there any pressurized water or steam equipment, that particularly water that would
We have tried to
flush
fire
that out?
like a high pressure fire hose before.
Yeah.
And that's just like hit or miss. It can work or not, so. But I mean, yeah, it's definitely worth a shot on some of the other ones that are like pretty backed up, so.
Yeah.
And when you say the 20 drains need to be replaced, are they able to, you guys
No,
able to,
that's big time.
that's the big.
You're gonna have to close the road.
Okay.
I know, I told you this, just before the fact rather than. after.
Okay.
Much easier that way.
Yeah,
Are all of those replacements or can some of those be lined?
it's possible, yeah.
So that's,
Go ahead.
no, I could answer that. So any kind of for lining would be, as long as it keeps its ovality, basically the regular shape of it, it can be lined. Now with lining, there's two arguments about it. One, you're lining it, so you're making the diameter a little smaller, so it lets less flow in. But they say a lot of studies have been done, engineering studies that show even though you are decreasing the diameter, because the lining is smoother, it allows it to flow through a little better. So it's kind of a negligible
Reduces the
decrease.
resistance, right?
Correct, yes. So basically, if as long as it keeps its ovality, lining is a good option. It also, the big benefit of that is you don't have to close the roadway. That's the number one thing. Sometimes, but it's really, it's a hit or miss. So you gotta do a specific benefit cost analysis on each one. Because sometimes it is cheaper just to dig it up and, you go, because we saw the pricing on FEMA 20D, that lining is not cheap. And unless you get a lot of lining at once, it's gonna cost you. But yes, as long as it keeps its ovality, it can be accounted. Now, I haven't looked at specific cases on which ones are and which ones aren't, but but yes, that is definitely an option.
Okay, thank you.
And after we get the gas tax,
Mhm.
that's something the board's gonna have to look at, is how to allocate that, because they've never allocated, we didn't even know how many pipes we had. This was like, it was like a road district, road only, okay? But the culverts are under the
Yeah.
roads. So, for the first time, the district is gonna have to make some kind of funding decision. How much goes to pavement and how much goes to pipes?
Right.
But in the past, after we determined how many pipes, 132 or what it was. So, okay, that's all great that we know what we have, but there's no funds
Mhm.
to really do, any sort of
So
substantial.
it's kind of like a giant drain repiping. That's what I call it, like a repipe of the house, but
Pretty
repipe it, okay.
Yeah,
It's got the same exact thing, yeah.
45 years.
Okay.
And the CMP, they say the life of CMP is 40 years or something like
40
that.
to 50 years.
And,
Yeah, it's too bad they don't have those spraying liners on these, like they
They,
do.
they have some material that you don't have to go in and they just kind of, basically, it's actually like a, it's like a material, like a plastic material, they fill up, they can either do it two ways, they can fill it up with steam or water, and it goes through the pipe and just kind of sticks to the outside of the
Yeah.
pipe, so that's what they do. That spray on, it can work in some applications, but you need a, problem with that would be if there's a hole in the pipe, you can't spray a hole, so that's why you need something that's gonna take the actual shape of the pipe and conform to it. That's about it.
But guess if that far gone, that, there's a reduction in the mechanical strength as well.
Correct, now,
Great.
yeah,
Wouldn't quite, recover from. Correct. Okay, thanks. You keep going.
So these are the advisory signs, just letting vehicles know that there's like, it's kind of just slopes off right there. Wyatt and I noticed that they're basically destroyed just from cars hitting it and stuff like that. So we came up with the idea to actually add this white delineator with reflective tape into the post that's already in the ground. So we removed the old post that was sticking out and hanging off. And then we added those white delineators in. So we can give that a shot.
Very good.
These are some missing blue RTMs that we found, and this is what indicates that there is a water source, like a fire hydrant, accessible.
for most of them, district-wide replaced now, you're driving around
For
the RPMs.
yeah, we drove around pretty much everywhere, and it looks like they're pretty much all the
Are
time.
you talking about just the blue ones, or are you talking about all of them on the center one too?
Just the blue ones as of right now.
Okay.
I noticed some blue ones broken in front of my place. You didn't by any chance, stop by there, did you?
No, I didn't, but
You
glad,
went tomorrow.
yeah, I'm glad.
Saw one laying off in the ditch.
All right.
Come on.
Sounds good, thank you for telling me
Yeah.
on that. Some tree trimming we did, just trees coming into the roadway or obviously blocking this advisory sign that traffic can't see. We actually got a call for this yesterday. This water barrel was on a Sycamore Mesa. It was towards like the side of the cliff, so Wyatt and I tried to, there was actually still some water in there, so it was a
Someone
kind of like a drag. Wyatt and I were trying to get it up there. So, yeah, but we moved that off the side of the road and took it to our dumpster. So,
Very good.
Okay, I think, we're down to the last item I, which is the, update on permit, state, county, all those things.
Yeah, let's see, let's start from the top and work down, FEMA, federal.
Yeah.
We, recall we were gonna line Sandy Creek and had it all approved by FEMA. And we did one of our small projects where we lined with 5 or 6, I think.
Like FEMA projects,
Yeah, the small project.
probably about 12, probably
Was
about,
that-
yeah, it was a good amount, yeah.
Yeah, so the plan was, and we Wildan designed it to line, it was Sandy Creek. Just Sandy, it wasn't the
Well,
other.
we were gonna line Bolton.
Bolton. And everything was fine, we were approved, and they were gonna give us about $400,000 in reimbursement for that FEMA money. And then they changed supervisors in FEMA, and that supervisor said FEMA doesn't pay for a line. We said, oh, that's interesting, you just paid us. No, I'm sorry, tear it all out, put it in. We said, but that's gonna cost a lot of money. They said, don't worry about it. So instead of the project being 375,000, it rose to 735,000. And FEMA approved our paperwork to reimburse us $700,000. But as we kept asking for, when are we getting our money back? They kept saying, well, it hasn't been signed off yet. So we're in that process of getting it signed off. And the last sign off is environmental. And environmental's position is that you can't complete the work. And we kind of went through this a year ago this time without FEMA environmental saying it's okay. So we knew that, but we've gotten all of our permits, including the federal Army Corps permit in July of last year. So the board ultimately, but we just kept moving and completed the job. But we haven't heard from them for, I think Cal OES asked environmental to approve this in, it was December 22nd of 2020. And they contacted us a few months ago because we're screaming for our money and said, well, you haven't gotten our approval yet. And question number one is verify that this hasn't been started yet. So anyway, I actually went to the head of Cal OES and said, because I knew him from the year before when we arbitrated over the small projects. David, what would you like us to do here? And he said, just tell them it's done because, you know, they're in Washington, DC, and everybody got COVID out there. And so they're 2 years behind. And so anyway, it's about 400 and some odd thousand in dispute. What we've done is we've handed it over to the people who, this was recommendation of Cal OES. We shouldn't be trying to answer their questions. Let the people that we paid $150,000 to do our EIR, let them do it. So Ron and I have been meeting with them, and I think the deadline is Friday. They're going to put the whole package together, and we're going to indicate that we had a dangerous circumstance with the detour, and for us to explain to the public that we had a federal permit in hand, but we were simply waiting for a division of FEMA. That didn't make any sense. So it's possible we could have to go to arbitration on that. But I think this time we'll have the state on our side because Gilling said, just tell them the truth. We have to move, and that's it. No disrespect. But basically, we're in California. Our regulations generally are higher standard than federal, and that's what we did. So anyway, they have not set a date. It's like a Zoom meeting, but we'll have the team. And when we met with the environmental people that work for us, they said, no sweat, we got these, you know, they'll just step them through.
So we should probably have an answer on that by the time for the full committee.
It'll be next month, because we have to get our information in writing to the state and the feds, and then they're going to schedule a Zoom. And I'm hoping it's possible that our environmentalists, they know the right things to say. Maybe we're going to submit it next Friday. Maybe we won't have to do it. So I'm hoping Gas tax, county staff continues to try to stop it from happening. So we're now scheduling, it's the end of the month, a meeting where Mary Ann and Robert are going to go to Jeffrey's office. And Jeffries is bringing all his people, county COO and county road department head, this and that, and try to hash through this. Robert and I had a brief conversation with Supervisor Washington at another kind of event, but we talked to him about it, Robert talked to him about it, and non-committal, but he's gonna, we will be in that district in 2024 is when that changes over. So we actually have two districts at this point in time that are somewhat affected by this. So anyway, it moves slowly on, and May is the deadline to put our roads on the list for the state, and then funding would begin July 1st of 23. So that's kind of where we are there. We're monitoring what's going on at the end of Sandia Creek with the winery.
Yes.
And that those legal notices have been transmitted to San Diego County that we are the transportation agency for those lots, that they may be outside of the county, but their only access is through Duluth. So we need to have say in, because, you know, I think I've said before, the county road department doesn't even contact us with subdivisions here until it's all said and done. They use their own road department. And so we don't want that to happen in San Diego County, because they'll say, oh, it looks great to us, they're not using our roads. And so, yeah, then we find out they get, guess what, surprise. So that's all been submitted to San Diego County, and they have responded that they're here. So
There
other
was
than
a
that,
Fallbrook group, wasn't there also?
The Fallbrook Planning Commission.
Yeah,
And they're having elections right now. I don't know if have you been through Fallbrook? Have you see all those signs out there?
no, I
saying,
haven't for a few.
You know, they're electing their planning group, so I'm not
Okay.
sure when that's on, but make sure some of the same people are running, and they're, you know, it's the same, some new people, but yeah, it's the planning group. I don't know how much they're gonna have to do with that. You
they're
know,
advisory only.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not sure we'll participate at that level. What it is with counties are so big. And other counties have, they're called MAC, Municipal Advisory Council. So anything and everything goes to this group, and they give input. And then once they've given input, then they begin to process it. In this case, it's a subdivision or a planning and zoning action. So it'll then go to the staff. At this time, what both the law firm and myself have been told by the county planners, we've heard of it, and it's in our pile somewhere. But until it goes to this planning group and they talk about it for an hour or two and make a recommendation. Now, hopefully they're gonna recommend, no, we shouldn't do this. But that doesn't stop anything. Once they, whether they're pro or con, it still goes through the planning process. And that's the process that we want to be involved in. And one of the things I was concerned about, because in the years past, I've had to be very involved with CEQA. And there's some time triggers in state law that aren't really consistent with this process. And so our law firm said, you're right. And so they have had some communication with the environmental people of San Diego County that you can't trigger it just because it went to an advisory committee. And they've confirmed that. So, because again, I'm concerned that they'll say, oh, we've been studying this for 60 days. Sorry, we didn't know that you guys were involved or something like that. You know, doors closed. And so anyway, I think we got that covered. But because CEQA wise, one of the big, what you do is when any project comes in, there's a CEQA checklist. And you have so many days from the time the applicant submitted it, like 60 days to do the checklist. It's called a preliminary study or something like that, initial study. And it covers all these different things. And one of the biggest is the transportation impacts. And see, that's where County of Riverside on some projects within our boundaries says, oh, well, we're getting that filled out by the road department. The road department has nothing to say or have to do with these roads that directly affect the project. And here, same thing, this is a whole nother county. And I don't want their road department to start checking, no effect, no effect, no effect, no effect. And then, oh, well, you don't need an environmental impact report. So it's all kind of technical, but I know it's eventually in a month, 2 months, 3 months, we're going to be sitting at this table talking about whatever has come out in this process, because the developer is going to proceed. So, I mean, until they get a final no, that could be a year or two. So anyway, that's where those stand. So I think I've gotten federal, state, county next door. That's where we stand right now. So we'll keep you up to date.
Okay, thanks. Well, with no remaining agenda items, we're adjourned.